Welcome to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie, and you guys know that I had to go out and get a specialist for the Washington football team. And so I brought over my man, Louie T from the LouieTeeNetwork. Louie, what's going on, bro?
Hey, man, blessed to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. Look forward to this game on Sunday. One of us has got to win. As I told our fan base, they looking at us like food. We looking at y'all like food. Somebody's going to eat on Sunday, man, and we'll see who ends up getting it done.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, we kind of talked before the show. We're kind of both in the same position in terms of record-wise and things of that nature. The first thing that I want to ask you about is a lot of Bengals fans, based off of last season, they kind of wanted Chase Young because there's a lot of Ohio State people, a lot of Ohio State fans. Do you think that the Bengals made the right move going with Joe Burrow, or do you think Chase Young should have been the pick? And what are your opinions of Chase Young?
Honestly, most Washington fans are jealous of the Bengals because I told them this week, it's like we're looking in the mirror. The only difference, though, is that you've started the process of rebuilding because you've got a good mixture of veteran players and young guys, but you have already taken that step because in this league, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance. And we are still kind of wandering through that quarterback wilderness, and we don't have the guy of the future. At least we don't think we do. Some people do think we do in Dwayne Haskins. I think the staff doesn't believe in him. And so if you want to be honest, we would much rather be you in terms of having Joe Burrow, having the quarterback of the future on the roster, having him take his lumps in a year where you knew you were going to rebuild anyway. And the only real question in Cincinnati, I think, is Zach Taylor the right guy? I don't know if, Bengals fans necessarily agree with him being the guy leading this team into the future or not. I think the jury's still out on him. But as far as Chase Young is concerned, we were happy to get either one. Well, we were happy to either get Joe Burrow. If you didn't take Joe Burrow, we would be happy to take Joe Burrow. If you did take Joe Burrow, which you did, then we were going to take Chase Young. It was a no-lose situation for us. We were going to win either way. A lot of fans are down on Young because the sack numbers aren't there. But those are the people that aren't actually watching the film. If you watch the film, Chase Young has been a havoc wreaker without even having those big numbers, those gaudy numbers that you look for in a pass rusher in this league. The guy is getting double and triple teamed. I've never seen anything like this before with a guy coming into the league. You would think Chase Young has 7.5 sacks already this season with the way he's commanding attention. I mean, there are games where there are 4 guys looking at him on a play and he's getting blocked by 3 guys. I mean, it's crazy. And so somebody else has to win. You can't just put that all on Chase Young. Would I like to see him win more one-on-one matchups? He's even acknowledged this. Yeah, he needs, when he gets his opportunities, he needs to win, but he's been fantastic. I have no complaints. I think this guy's going to be a dynamic pass rusher. If he were in Cincinnati, your defense would be exponentially better, but then you'd have a question as to what you're going to do on offense. So I think you got it right by taking Burrow. If you're in a position to take a guy that I graded out as the highest quarterback I had graded out since Andrew Luck, you got it right. I love Joe Burrow. I think you guys are finding that out firsthand, that this guy's the real deal, and you are a step ahead of us because you've taken care of the most important position in all of football.
So you kind of talked about the quarterback position, and obviously, like you said, with Washington, you guys are still trying to figure that out. I'm assuming that the starter is going to be Alex Smith. Obviously, he had that injury that he had to come back from. You guys kind of traded for him, and then you also drafted Dwayne Haskins. What do you expect to see, I guess, from Alex Smith heading into this game?
So I think that's one of the things that, as fans, we've been most shocked by is the reemergence of Alex Smith. After the gruesome leg injury, we were 2 years out just on Wednesday. Wednesday was the 2-year anniversary of him, shattering his leg, and we thought that was the end of his career. Everyone did. And to see where he's come from that point, watching the Project 11 documentary, seeing his leg, everything that he's gone through, hearing that, his wife had to make a decision whether to amputate or, save his life, or, it's just crazy to think that this man is actually playing in a real professional tackle football game after all the things that we've seen. And the first game that he played in post-injury was against the Rams, and it's one of the ugliest performances I've ever seen in my life, and I've watched a ton of football. And we literally had 6 yards of offense in a half. 6 yards. We went 3 and out 6 times and 4 and out once. We did not move the football at all in the second half. He got sacked 6 times in the second half of that game. He looked scared. He looked like a deer caught in headlights. I just said, this guy can't play anymore. And then he comes in against the Giants a couple of weeks ago because of the injury to Kyle Allen, and he lights it up. And I'm thinking, okay, that was just the Giants game. It was an aberration. You know, the Giants were playing often soft, whatever. I tried to make excuses. I watched the film. I said, no, he's actually playing good ball, but I don't think he can do that. That's not Alex Smith. We know that's not Alex Smith. He's captain. Da-da-da, Captain Checkdown. We know what he is. So I'm like, this is not real. It's a mirage. He does it again against Detroit the following week, sets career highs in completions, pass attempts, and yards. And I'm like, whoa, maybe he can do this. Maybe this offense is right for him. And maybe the last time when he was before the injury with Jay Gruden, the offense wasn't right for him. I look at the Bengals defense and I'm thinking they're right for the picking. You know, I like the matchup against that secondary. I think that there are opportunities here for him if they can keep him upright and keep the pressure from getting to him. When he's in a clean pocket, he's dangerous. When you put pressure on him, if I'm the defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm coming after Alex Smith because he hasn't proven the ability to escape pressure. His mobility is not back, and I don't know if it's going to return or not. But right now, he's struggling to get outside of the pocket when pressure is applied. If you speed up his process, you can force him into errant passes. If you allow him back there to have time, he can carve you up right now.
Definitely. So that's definitely something the Bengals fans have to be on the lookout for, because as you said, the Bengals secondary has been hit with a rash of injuries last week. Only 2 corners were actually playing in that game. Right. So with that being said, what are some of the offensive weapons that we can look forward to or not look forward to in terms of presenting some threats? Obviously, you got McLaurin at receiver, but what are some of the threats that Washington can use offensively?
So what we've done the last couple of weeks is we've exclusively went to a heavy passing, essentially game plan where our coordinator, we've got a first-time offensive coordinator in Scott Turner. He wants to remain, he continues to tell us he wants to remain balanced, but that's not what he's looking to do. He wants to run the football. If you can't stop the run, then he'll run it. But if he finds that there is any resistance whatsoever against the run, he'll just scrap it and just spread you out 5 receivers, and he'll just throw the football all around the field. That's why Alex Smith. Now, granted, this is the thing. If you're Cincinnati, you probably don't know this because you haven't been following Washington all season long, but we have been the worst first half team in the league. We've been down in every game in the first half at halftime by double digits except for 2 games. We were ahead in the Cowboys game, 22-3, and we were down against the Giants 13-10. And every other game this season, we've been down by big time points. You know, double digits, 17-3, 20-3, 20-0. We've been down big. And so last week, no different. We were down 17-3 at halftime. We make mistakes in the first half. We turn the ball over. We have penalties. We miss field goals. We do everything that bad football teams do, young football teams do. You should know. Last week you had 2 turnovers in the first quarter, 4 penalties. You know, the Steelers had 6 possessions. It blew my mind. 6 possessions in the first quarter. Who does that?
Crazy, man.
You know what I'm saying? So you're a young team, we're a young team. Those kind of mistakes happen. But the difference between the 2 teams has been you guys have been able to score points. We really haven't. Up until the last month, which is when things have changed. When we entered Kyle Allen into the lineup, he gets injured. Alex Smith comes in, and the offense continues to take off. Look for this offense. If the run isn't something that he feels is achievable, and he's going to try early more likely than not, just to see if your defense is going to put up any resistance or not. If they do, then look for them to spread your team out 5 wide. You'll have a lot of 2-back sets where you'll see running backs, J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson. Gibson is our rookie running back. And they'll start with McKissick in the backfield. They'll motion him out. You'll have we come out in a lot of 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. Those receivers are going to be more likely than not Steven Sims, Cam Sims, and Terry McLaurin. Also, you'll get some Isaiah Wright if he's healthy. He was out of practice on Friday with an illness, but we'll see if he's able to play or not. A lot of guys have been ill. We looked at your injury report. You had a bunch of guys. I don't know, bug must have been going around your team or something, because like 5 or 6 of those guys had an illness this week. But more likely than not, most of those guys are going to play. I'm thinking the same thing with Isaiah Wright, but he's another guy that's a fixture of this offense. So, and then Dontrell Inman, one of our receivers that missed the last 2 games, might be back off of a hamstring injury this week. But the nucleus of what you'll see is McLaurin, both of the Sims, Cam Sims and Steven Sims Jr. Our tight end Logan Thomas is becoming a bigger and bigger part of this offense as the weeks progress. And then you're going to get a lot of J.D. McKissick. He led the team last week with 15 targets against the Lions. We know Alex Smith loves the check down. Yep. So if you're going to cover this team, you need to definitely cover the backs out of the backfield, Gibson and McKissick as well.
Definitely. So we kind of talked offensively what this Washington football team can do against us. How about defensively? Because obviously we're all worried about that defensive line. Mm-hmm. How have things, I guess, worked for you guys or going for you guys at the first 3 levels? Or who are some of those guys that we should be watching out for on defense?
Well, your offense scares the hell out of us because, 1, you got a fearless quarterback in Joe Burrow. 2, even though I'm excited because no Joe Mixon, but look, Giovanni Bernard is definitely capable of dicing us. And I've always been a fan of Giovanni Bernard. You've got an ex-Washington football team player on your team, is Samaje Perine. He probably wants a little bit of revenge. So He's going to come out probably running hard as well. You've got so many weapons at receiver. I got a question for you, though. And I'll say that after I give you the answer to your question, which is, some of the things that we have going on defensively. Our defensive line has had issues getting to the quarterback. Now, this is the thing. If you've got a faulty offensive line, then we're going to get 6 sacks. That's been the MO of our team this year. If your offensive line stinks, we're coming. If you've got a competent offensive line, then you're going to block us, because most teams have said, well, we're not going to let 99 wreck the game, so we're going to put 2 on him, maybe 3. And everybody else gets one-on-one matchups. Sometimes you'll see one of our interior defensive linemen double-teamed as well, and then other guys will have one-on-ones, and those guys simply aren't winning consistently enough. Now, Montez Sweat, definitely capable of beating a one-on-one, and if you're not careful, he can get you. But for the most part, teams have stymied our pass rush by just double-teaming our better rushers and allowing the guys that they don't think can win one-on-one matchups to have one-on-one matchups, and they haven't won. When we blitz, it's selective. It can be effective, but we're still one of those teams that we're not a smart blitzing team. We don't space well on our blitzes. 2 guys can block 3 guys because they're all rushing in the same gap. We just do stupid things that young teams do that just make all the difference in the world. And so the secondary is really banged up, especially at the safety position. We're more likely than not going to be trotting out a guy that we've been running from since about week 2 or 3. We benched him in week 3. We had 2 injuries that have now thrusted him back into the lineup, and Troy Apke almost gave up a 70-yard touchdown at the end of the game with 12 seconds left. Oh, man. He's terrible. And playing his deep half, his center field or his deep third of the field. He's terrible at getting depth. So that's a concern. And the linebackers have been a big issue for this team all year long, specifically John Bostic. But we can't just single him out. The linebackers haven't been good enough. And our coaching staff has talked about the linebackers and needing more from them. That's part of the reason our run defense isn't good, which is why I was glad not to see Joe Mixon this week, because our run defense has been hideous. If you look at the statistics, we were number 1 in pass defense. That was a mirage. If you've been watching this team, you know why we were number 1 in pass defense. And it had nothing to do with our actual pass defense. However, the run defense is lagging way behind everything else defensively for us. So if you can run the football consistently, you are going to have success. You're going to stay out of 3rd and longs, and you're going to be able to stay on schedule offensively. You're going to be able to take shots down the field because we'll have to respect your run game. If you can establish that early, you're going to have opportunities to take shots. And we give up the most big plays in football. We've given up in every game. It hasn't been one game this season that we haven't given up at least a gain of 25 or more. And every game except one, we've given up at least one play of 40 yards or more. And in 6 of our 10 games, we've given up 2 or more plays of 40 yards. So we give up big plays. If you want them, they are here to be had. I'll ask you a question though, because I've watched every Cincinnati game this year.
Right.
And I noticed that AJ Green doesn't look right to me. He doesn't look like the same AJ Green, pre-injury.
Definitely.
Do you guys feel that same way? I feel like right now Tyler Boyd is your best receiver, and T. Higgins is coming on as a rookie, and he's your second best target right now. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that there's definitely some Bengals fans that will feel like AJ Green has taken a step back. I think to me it's a combination of him and Joe Burrow just not really being on the same page. I don't think that they really have chemistry. So it's hard for me to say AJ Green has completely fell off because like sometimes when I look at certain things, like if you look at the game last week, there were just plays where they just weren't on the same page. Right. Balls are being thrown out of bounds. They're not in the same vicinity. And I think that that's a combination of it. But it is trending towards us looking at it like, okay, we're used to AJ Green being at this level, right? An elite level. And I think that obviously with Father Time, he's definitely taken a step back, but I don't think that it's so huge that he's just completely really what his numbers have said that he is this season. I think he's still got some talent there. I think he is possibly the third or second option in this offense, but they just are not on the same page. And it's just weird because we went from Andy Dalton and we were kind of used to AJ kind of making up for some of those errant passes. Right. And we just all assumed that was going to kind of go away with Joe Burrow, right? Better quarterback, but they do not have the same chemistry. I hate to say that him and Andy Dalton had, and you can see it. It seems that Joe Burrow definitely has better chemistry with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. But I will have to agree with you that right now it's looking like Tyler Boyd is one, and maybe even T. Higgins. T. Higgins has really been tearing it up this season. He's really come on here. So I think that it is probably right now Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and then you got AJ Green. You hope that they can get on the same page, but it really just looks like him and Joe Burrow are just not on the same page together. And it's tough to see because, Bengals fans, we love AJ Green. He was a guy that gave his blood, sweat, and tears for this franchise, and a franchise that has not been, really a warm one to players. Like a lot of players don't really commit to the Bengals. A lot of them don't have fond memories of the Bengals. They don't commit to a team like this, especially with us not winning as much as other teams. And AJ has just been a class act. He's a guy that's going to always bring his lunch pail. He doesn't have any kind of ego or anything like that. He's not going to say anything that will get him in trouble. So it's tough to kind of see things playing out the way that they are. Hopefully they can get on the same page. They had one game when they were on the same page and he looked like AJ of old, but we just have not seen it since then. So it's definitely been an issue. And I definitely would say that, yes, he may have taken a step back a little bit. I don't think that it's enough to say that he's going to be out of the league in like a year or something like that. I think if he was on a different team, like if you put AJ Green right now, let's just say on the Chiefs or even on the Ravens, I think that he would have possibly a better stat sheet than he's been having right now.
And so to follow up on that, do you think he's going to be back next year?
That's a tough one. Like if it was the beginning of the season, we actually had AJ on the show, and I've had sources that are close to AJ that I've known for years that have always said that he wanted to stay here. I haven't checked up on that recently, and obviously I think the way that things are trending right now, I would say that it's trending towards him going somewhere else in the offseason. Now that still could change. I think that he does think that Joe Burrow is great. I think that he still loves the franchise, but I think if he's thinking for his own self in terms of taking that next step, I think that it probably would be better suited for him to get the numbers that he wants to get career-wise to try to get to the Hall of Fame. That would be better suited elsewhere. Of course, I would love to have him retire as a Bengal. Right. I think Mike Brown, the owner, would love to see him retire as a Bengal, but it would have to depend on if both sides really want to make this work and really kind of put him, if he does stay here, it would kind of be kind of that Larry Fitzgerald kind of role that he's kind of morphed into with the Cardinals. And he looks up to Larry, and that's one of his role models. But the issue with that is they moved Larry to the slot, and we already have Tyler Boyd in the slot. So I would say right now, and like I said, I have not talked to him at all. This is not any source or any information that I'm giving you from AJ himself. I just think that the way the season is going, I would think that he would probably want to look elsewhere, to have someone that could possibly have better chemistry with him, or someone that's going to give him a chance to win. If he wants to go out and get a Super Bowl, I don't think that that's in the window that Cincinnati is in right now. I don't think it aligns with that. Yep. So unfortunately, even though I would love to see him stay here, I think it's probably a 30% chance at this point in, I guess we're in week 11, that he would stay. And I think it's a 70% chance that he probably go off somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the kind of the feel I'm getting. But as you said, still a lot of football left to be played, and we don't really know what he's thinking. But that's the way it seems like it's trending for sure.
Right, definitely. I do feel like he is frustrated. He's trying to just figure out what's going on, and I think that it's just that they're not on the same page. I don't know what they can do, because it's a unique situation, because what a lot of people don't realize is he's coming back off of an injury. Obviously, he hasn't played in about a season and a half. He didn't have, with what we have going on right now in the world, they didn't have an offseason, so it wasn't like he could kind of go and work out with Joe Burrow. He didn't get a preseason, so he didn't get a chance to kind of get his feet back under him, and then he was just kind of thrown back into this. And another thing that people don't remember is, since he's been out for so long, he never got to learn the Zach Taylor offense, so he's also still picking that up as well, and then catching balls from a quarterback that he's not too familiar with. So I think all of that has definitely contributed to it.
Absolutely.
But one thing that I want to get into is kind of a prediction. But are there any other questions that you have for me in terms of the Bengals or anything like that?
Your offensive line. The biggest thing that Washington fans are kind of keying in on this week is that the Bengals have given up the most sacks this season. To this point. Now, most Washington fans aren't watching the game, so they don't know. But Burrow is another one of these guys. He's not Wentz, but he's in that same vein where he doesn't like to give up on plays. And he'll hold on to the football a little bit longer than he needs to. So some of those sacks are on Burrow just trying to create something and not getting rid of the football in a timely enough fashion. But some of it is on the offensive line as well. How do you guys view your offensive line, and how much of the 34 sacks given up, or whatever that number is that actually on the offensive line?
So I think most of us felt like the offensive line, and have felt for the last 4 some odd years, that the offensive line has been an issue, right? We were upset because they didn't do enough to fix it in the offseason. Yes, they drafted Jonah Williams 2 seasons ago. That has been a big help, but they really kind of dug themselves in and said, oh, we're just going to be able to get the guys that we have now, such as Bobby Hart.
Yeah, I laughed when you guys re-signed Bobby Hart.
That was a frustrating day for me.
What are you doing?
That was a frustrating day for me. Right after he gave up 10 sacks in the season, it's like, hey, let's go ahead and give you some more money. It's crazy. It's really indicative. That right there really explains what this team or this front office has thought about the offensive line. And, ever since we lost Andrew Whitworth, that was a thing where the Bengals kind of do this thing where guys get past a certain age and they're just like, oh, you're done. We don't need you. We'll just go ahead and take other guys. And that was really where it kind of started, was them not keeping Andrew Whitworth. Obviously, he went off to the L.A. Rams and had a season, but the Bengals decided to keep 2 young tackles, and Cedric Ogbuehi and Jake Fisher, who obviously aren't here anymore. And that's where it really started. And it's kind of going into them trying to trade for Cordy Glenn, which didn't work out because he had disagreements with the offensive line coach. There's been some issues with the offensive line coach here, Jim Turner. A lot of guys retired. It's just really been a makeshift offensive line. They went out and got patchwork guys. You talk about Xavier Su'a-Filo, not going to really be something that goes off on ESPN as a free agent acquisition. But that's what they've really done. They've just really put together a cast of guys. Now, recently, they have gotten more aggressive in fixing that offensive line, because at the beginning of the season, as you said, they started to give up so many sacks. It was apparent that if you don't get Joe Burrow a line, you're going to kill this guy. It's
Right.
almost going to be an Andrew Luck kind of situation. Right. They really had some issues, I would say, at the left guard and the right guard position drastically there. They drafted Billy Price. He has not worked out. He came in, I think in that Titans game, it was a very scary situation for me because it literally was like all backups. And they just threw in guys that had not even been there. And the thing that was surprising was that the line actually played better with the backup guys than the starters. And so then people started to say, okay, maybe it's just that the Titans don't have a good pass rush, which they don't. Right. And maybe it's also that Jim Turner picked the wrong guys to actually start. Right. So the one thing that I will say is going into the Steelers game, even though they gave up as many sacks as they did, I still feel like this offensive line has started to get better the last probably 4 some odd weeks. After that Ravens game, I'd probably say that they made some adjustments to get better. They actually found a good tackle in Hakeem Adeniji, which was a 6th-round draft pick that they took in the draft. And one of the critiques was that they should have drafted a lineman way before that. But it seems that Hakeem is doing his thing. He started, I believe, at left tackle last week. He's really been a gem for us to find. Jonah did not play last week. I would assume that he's going to play this week, but I'm also hearing that Bobby Hart is going to play this week. So we'll have to see. And then they went and got Quentin Spain, who was a guy that was cut from Buffalo, and they've been really aggressive on fixing the interior as it's been the weakness. I will say that it's gotten better, but I'm still scared of that Washington defensive line. I was still scared of the Steelers defensive line because although you have, I think it's probably moved from probably a D to maybe a C minus, but it still can be exposed, I would probably say. So I am fearful of what Chase Young could do because Chase Young could literally come off against Bobby Hart or Fred Johnson or either of these guys and definitely make a play. So it is something that has been a weakness. And to me, I think in the draft, the first pick that you have to make is just take a lineman, take as many linemen as you can, and protect your asset in Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and it's amazing because listening to you describe your offensive line is similar to the games that we've had success in against Philadelphia, against Dallas, where they've had issues up front with guys being out and guys, mixing around pieces and trying to find the combination that works. And those are the games where we get 6 sacks, 7 sacks.
Yeah. So when you said that, I was just like, oh God,
yeah, those are the games where Jack Del Rio smells blood in the water and he sends the dogs. And it becomes like this downhill, avalanche, and it's hard to stop it, once they get it going. So if you guys are able to protect early and often, I think that you're going to be just fine. If we get to you early and Joe Burrow's under siege early in this game, then it might be a long afternoon because those are the games where they start to gain confidence. And then Del Rio says, oh, they're having trouble. Okay, we're going to keep sending the dogs. So it'll be interesting to see how you guys handle, some situations early in the game. If we can get you to 3rd down, that's been a problem for us, getting teams off the field in 3rd and short situations. So we'll see.
Right, definitely. So Bengals fans, thank you for tuning in. This is Louie T. If you are just now tuning in, you can find his information on the Louie T Network on YouTube. Before we get Louie out of here, we want to be respectful of his time. Just want to ask you, what are your predictions for this game?
Oh, man, I'm not confident in this one at all. But I did predict that Washington would win this game 30-27. Most Washington fans we feel like it's a race to 30. Whomever gets there first wins. We haven't scored 30 all season. So, I mean, it's almost laughable for me to feel like we're going to get to 30 all of a sudden. But the way the offense has been playing the last month, we went from dead last in 3rd down conversions to 1st in the league over the last month. We're converting at a 50% clip right now. And it's not just 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 4s. It's 3rd and 9s. It's 3rd and 11s. We had a 4th and 13 that we converted in the game to keep the game alive. So we've been very good in 3rd down situations, even 4th down situations when we've been called upon in those situations. So I think that there is a chance to get to 30. I look at this Bengals defense. As I mentioned, we're looking in the mirror essentially in this game. Young team, makes mistakes, turns the ball over, things of that nature. So it's really who makes the least amount of mistakes. We've had some egregious turnover games this season. We lost to the Giants 2 weeks ago with 5 turnovers in that game. And you guys, it was funny because a lot of our fans got upset after the bye week. We beat Dallas. We went into the bye week. We were on a high. We felt like, hey, the schedule's kind of lining up for us. We could win 3 or 4 straight here. And we come out of the bye and we got 5 turnovers. And we lose to the Giants by 3. And I told them, I said, young teams do that. And so you guys beat Tennessee. That was the biggest upset to this point of the season, not for just you, the entire league. Nobody saw that coming. 5-1 team against a 1-win team, and you didn't just beat them, you smoked them. Okay, right. The score isn't even indicative of how you dominated in that game. You know, the one thing I will say is that Joe Burrow did throw that interception, and that pass interference that they called really helped you because it would have changed the tenor of that game. But you dominated that game, and so you go into your bye week, you're feeling good, and the difference is you played the Steelers, which they're undefeated. We played the 1-win Giants, so it's a big difference between the competition. But still, you came out of the bye week, turnovers, penalties, mistakes. And before you even had a chance, you were down big against the Steelers. So you see these young teams going through the growing pains that young teams go through. And that's why I feel like we have a shot, because you guys are like a splitting image of us outside the fact that you got a young quarterback and we got a veteran quarterback. But it's who makes the least amount of mistakes. We're due for a game where we don't turn it over. We're due for a game when we don't make an ass out of ourselves with turnovers and mistakes. We usually don't have a ton of penalties. We're not a big penalty team, but we have inopportune penalties. You know, we have penalties at the worst times of the game, like the Chase Young penalty against Detroit this past week. So all in all, I say 30-27. It's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a very close game. We don't really blow anyone out. That's not our MO. It's not what we do. We can't afford to fall behind. You guys have had games this season, like the Colts game, where you jump out on top of somebody. We're not the Colts. So if you jump out on top of us, more likely than not, we're not going to come back and beat you. But if you jump out on top of us like that, you're going to win the game, because we've shown the ability to fight. We're not going to give up. But we're not good enough to come all the way back and finish the deal. We've shown that as well, that we'll fight, we'll get back in the game, we'll make it competitive, we'll even have a chance, but we don't know how to win those types of games. So we've got to be in this game from the start to the finish. It'd be nice if we can get off to a fast start. I'm not counting on that. I just don't want us to be down 17-3 or 20-3 at halftime like we've been so many times this season. But 30-27 is my prediction. Washington finds a way to win.
All right. Well, that is Louie T. Louie, let them know before you get out of here where they can find your stuff.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Really appreciate you allowing me to bless the program. You can find all of my work on YouTube on the LouieTeeNetwork, LOUIE space TEE network. Got a podcast that is every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the Louie T Network podcast. You can find that on any platform out there that you can get a podcast on. We do every primetime game. I do an overtime series for that. So Monday night overtime, Thursday night overtime, Sunday night overtime, no matter who's playing. I break down all 32 teams. I break down the draft. So if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and I've always said that the Bengals are one of the teams in the league that just get the draft. You know, we say what you want about the Bengals. You guys draft really well. You get talented football players. Your problem is you just don't keep them. So like Hakeem Adeniji, like you're talking about, out of Kansas, long tackle, athletic. The thing with him was he was just raw. You know, he's a raw guy. You might have found a gem in the 6th round because the guy can play. It's just about getting him up to speed. And so you may have a gem there that you might have unearthed out of Kansas. So, you know, if you're looking for a draft breakdown, I break down every team's draft every year. I break down all the prospects. So you can find all of my work on the Louie T Network. You can also follow me at Louie T Network on Twitter, and also Louie T Network or _ Louie T Network on IG as well.
See, this is why we brought Louie on, man. So definitely be sure to check out his content. This has been Ace Boogie featuring Louie T. And as usual, I will leave you guys with a who day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.